$500 million. That's roughly the entry fee to train one frontier AI model, the kind of digital brain behind ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. Pay it and you own a mind of your own. Perplexity, the AI search company this story is about, has never paid that entry fee. And that's not an accident, and it's not because they couldn't raise the money. It's their whole design. Their product answers your questions by renting other companies' brain. To understand the bid, you need one more piece, and it starts with the government. In 2024, a federal judge ruled that Google had been running an illegal monopoly in search. The government's lawyers went further. They asked the court to force Google to sell off Chrome, the world's most popular browser, the front door to the internet for billions of people. Suddenly, Chrome might actually be for sale. And that's when Perplexity made its move. Last August, while the judge was still deciding Chrome's fate, the company that won't spend $500 million on a brain of its own jumped in, uninvited, with an offer to buy Chrome, $34.5 billion. Sit with that for a second. They passed on owning the brain and bid 70 times that price for a doorway. The company is Perplexity. And if you've heard of them lately, it's probably from videos with titles like Perplexity is collapsing. I'll be honest with you, when I first saw that Chrome bid, I thought it was a publicity stunt. I still mostly do, but the more I dug into this company, the more I think that bid is the single most revealing thing they've ever done. Because that bid tells you what Perplexity really believes, that they can't win this race by building a better mind, only by owning the place you go to use one. Whether that's genius or surrender, is this whole story. Because here's the strange part. This is not a story about a company running out of money. By the numbers investors care about, Perplexity is winning. So today I want to walk you through the version of the story the dunk videos skip, how a company can be winning and losing at the very same time, and the invisible wall that decides which one counts. Let's do something the internet almost never does. Before we get to the trouble, let's make the strongest case for Perplexity. Because honestly, it's a good one, and you can't understand the problem until you've seen it. Perplexity makes an answer engine. You ask a question in plain language. It searches the web, reads what it finds, and hands you an answer with citations. Like a research assistant who shows their work. When it launched, that was genuinely new. Google gave you links, this gave you answers. And people showed up. Investors valued the company around $18 billion in mid-2025. A few months later, 20. By January, it's roughly 22. For scale, that's more than the market value of many airlines you've actually flown on. Revenue was moving the same direction. Annualized revenue reached roughly $200 million by the end of 2025. And when they launched their agent product this February, something called Computer, revenue reportedly jumped by half in a single month. Then there's distribution, my favorite part of the bull case. In India, the telecom giant Airtel gave Perplexity Pro to its subscribers for free. Airtel has about 360 million customers. That's more people than live in the United States handed this product in one deal. Added up, a top 50 disruptor ranking, 100+ million monthly users once the agent products count, revenue climbing, valuation climbing. To be fair to Perplexity, by every scoreboard a startup investor looks at, this company is not collapsing, it's succeeding. So why does the usage data, the numbers about actual human beings choosing to open the thing, look like it belongs to a different company entirely? Here's the number the dunk videos wave around, the one you may have seen as minus 66%. And they almost always get it wrong. It is not the valuation. We just watched the valuation go up. The real number is quieter, and I'd argue it's worse. It's Perplexity's share of daily mobile users in the US. In October, about 6% of the AI app crowd opened Perplexity on a given day. By March, barely 2. 2/3 of its everyday presence in people's pockets, gone in 5 months. Not because the product broke, because people reached for something else. And it's not just phones. Over the past year, visits to Perplexity's website stayed roughly flat. while Claude's web audience quadrupled and ChatGPT crossed 1 billion US visits a month. Flat in a market growing that fast isn't standing still. It's drifting backward while the tide goes out. Their answer was Comet, their own browser. And look, for a moment it worked. It hit number 3 on the App Store. Then, researchers disclosed a security hole. The kind where a booby-trapped calendar invite could hijack your AI assistant without you clicking anything. And Comet fell from number 3 to not ranked at all. To be fair, its total user count kept growing underneath the headlines. But the momentum, the thing a challenger lives on, was gone. Then it got worse. Their shopping agents, AIs that buy things on your behalf, got Perplexity sued by Amazon. In November of 2025, Amazon told a federal court that Perplexity's agent was logging into customers' Amazon accounts while disguised as a regular Chrome browser. This March, the judge sided with Amazon. Her logic was simple. The agent had your permission to shop there, but not Amazon's. The agents are banned from the store. Perplexity is appealing, but as of today, their shopping assistant can't shop at the biggest store on the internet. An agent that can't go where people actually shop is a demo, not a product. Now, full disclosure, because I think you deserve to know where I stand, I've used Perplexity on and off since 2024, and I genuinely liked it. The citations were the reason, but once ChatGPT and Claude started citing their sources too, I stopped reaching for it. I just did. Maybe you're different. If you're still a daily Perplexity person, I actually want to hear why. Tell me in the comments which AI you open first in the morning. That answer, at scale, is this entire story, because none of what I just described in the drift, the browser, the lawsuit, none of it is Perplexity's biggest problem. The biggest problem is the one they can't ship their way out of. Remember the number we opened with? 500 million. The entry fee Perplexity chose never to pay. Now I can show you what that choice actually costs. Every answer Perplexity gives you is powered by a brain it doesn't own. GPT, Claude, Gemini. That was the founding idea all the way back in 2022. Don't build the brain, build the best interface to all the brains. Their CEO, Aravind Srinivas, still says it plainly. The model is not the product. And to be clear about who made that call and why, their founder, Aravind Srinivas, looked at this market and made a bet. The models themselves get copied and beaten every few months, so pouring $500 million into a brain that might be obsolete by summer is a losing game. Better to stay flexible, plug into whichever brain is best this month, and spend your money on the product instead. And honestly, as a product decision, it worked. It's the business model it built that's the trap. And I want to be fair about why they chose that. Training a frontier model costs hundreds of millions today. The people who run these labs project the price of staying at the frontier could reach $10 billion per run within a couple of years. For scale, $10 billion is a NASA flagship mission budget spent on one training run by one lab that might be obsolete in a year. That's the wall. It's invisible because nobody built it on purpose. It's just what the price of admission compounded into. And inside it, there are really only a handful of players left, each one backed by $1 trillion balance sheet. OpenAI with Microsoft, Anthropic with Amazon and Google, DeepMind inside Google, xAI. Everyone else already hit this wall quietly in 2024. Inflection raised over $1 billion to build frontier models. Microsoft hired out its founders and most of the team. Adept, same story. Amazon, Character AI. Its founders walked back into Google. 3 well-funded labs, and the polite word for what happened to them is acqui-hire. The honest word is the wall won. So Perplexity never tried to climb it. Fine, but look at what living outside the wall means. Every single query a Perplexity user runs, Perplexity pays rent on, a per token fee to OpenAI or Anthropic or Google, companies that are at the same time its direct competitors. Now here's my speculation, plainly marked Those labs are losing money themselves, so it's reasonable to assume they're not cutting their competitor a sweetheart rate. And my bet is that Perplexity's core search business loses money on every heavy user at today's token prices. I can't prove that from the outside, but nothing about their behavior last year. The query caps, the $200 tier, the push to enterprise. Looks like a company whose unit economics are fine. They've tried to dig under the wall, a house model called Sonar, built on Meta's open source Llama, cheaper to run. Users mostly report it feels like what it is, the budget option. And that Airtel deal I praised earlier, it ended in January. 12 months in, Airtel moved on and signed with Adobe instead. Even the best distribution deal is rented ground when you're outside the wall. The way I see it, that Chrome bid finally makes sense now. $34.5 billion for a browser is absurd, and until you realize it was a bid for the one thing the labs can't instantly copy, owning the front door. They couldn't buy a brain, so they tried to buy the doorway to everyone else's. Google never even entertained it. And 3 weeks later, the question died for good. The judge ruled Google could keep Chrome after all. The doorway was never really for sale. So, is Perplexity collapsing? Honestly, no, not today. The revenue is real, the users are real, and they say they're headed for an IPO in 2028, regardless of what happens to Anthropic or OpenAI. They might get there. But before I give you my rule, we have to talk about the bigger picture, the bubble. And yes, I think we're in one. Here's the thing though, every technology bubble in history ends the same way. A handful of companies come out the other side owning something real, and everyone else becomes a cautionary tale. The dot-com crash worked exactly like that. Amazon came out owning the warehouses. Google came out owning the algorithm. And then there was everyone else. Pets.com burned through about $150 million and died 268 days after going public. Webvan went from $30 a share to 6 cents. The bubble didn't care how famous you were, it cared what you owned. But the company this whole story keeps reminding me of is Yahoo. In the year 2000, Yahoo was the front page of the internet. And that year, it made a decision that looked brilliant. Instead of building its own search engine, it hired a scrappy little startup to power Yahoo Search and paid them for it. That startup was called Google. Think about what happened next. Every single search on Yahoo taught Google what people wanted. Yahoo saved money. Google built the future. By the time Yahoo realized the brain was the business, it bought 2 search companies and scrambled to build its own. By 2004, it was already over. Yahoo rented the brain from the company that ate it. Perplexity is running the Yahoo play, one bubble later. So no, I don't think collapsing is the right question. The right question is the Yahoo question. And it gives me the rule I'd rather you take home, the way I see it after 2 weeks inside this story. In this era of AI, the moat isn't the product, it's the wall of capital behind it. The brain inside your product is rented, then your costs are set by your competitors, and your margins are just a line item on their roadmap. You can build a beautiful house on rented ground, you just can't control the rent. And that's the part of this story that isn't really about Perplexity at all. Almost every AI product you use, the writing app, the coding tool, the search thing your job just bought, lives outside that wall, renting the same 4 brains. Perplexity is just the biggest, brightest tenant. Watch what happens to it. That's the weather report for everyone else. Now, let me be fair one last time, because I mean it. Perplexity could absolutely pull out of this. The revenue is real, the team is real, and we are so early in AI that counting anyone out completely is a fool's game. Maybe they pivot. Enterprise, the browser, something none of us have seen yet. Yahoo, remember, lived on for 2 more decades. But the way it stands today, they're lagging behind. And the wall isn't getting any cheaper. The machine doesn't care how good your product is. It cares who can pay for the next training run. If you want to see what happens when a company pretends to own the brain, we told that story in our Builder AI episode. It's the same wall from a darker angle. See you in the next one.